I would recommend for any manager and leader, get to know your humans and get to know what's most important to them when it comes to recognition.
Welcome to the Game of Her Own podcast, a free resource for women who work in the sports and entertainment industry. Each week, we get real and talk about the things that hold us back and how we can overcome them and keep climbing to the top. And the top is however you define it. We talk about the highs, the lows, and everything in between. Consider this podcast your secret weapon. You will learn from the best in the business and be able to take immediate action with all the advice that you hear. I'm your host, Jahaan Blake, a leadership development coach and consultant. I've worked in sports for 20 years. 15 of those years were spent working for the Red Sox, Dodgers, and the Cubs. After 15 years of working in the front office, I took a leap of faith and I started my own business. Friends, as a Black woman in sports, I know that the industry can take a toll on your confidence and sometimes leave you feeling defeated. Join me each week so I can support you on your journey. I promise you, each week you will feel stronger and more confident than the week before. So let's get started with this week's episode. Managing people is not easy. Not everyone thrives when they're leading a team. This is certainly not the case for Amy Potter, Director of North American Sponsorship for BMO Financial Group. Amy, who works at the intersection of sports and finance, talks all about what it takes to lead a high-achieving team without getting in their way. Listen in as Amy shares the secrets of how she manages her team as individuals, why she believes in the power of spending more time up front when it comes to getting your team right, why you need to get out of your safety network to find diverse talent, how to approach the interview process, and what will help you stand out, how she and her team approach mental health. This conversation is packed with some incredible gems. Dare I say, get a pen and paper out? All right, Game of Her Own listeners, let's do this. Amy, welcome to the Game of Her Own podcast. I'm so glad you're here.
I'm so glad to be here. Like I'm smiling ear to ear because I know our paths have crossed so much, but we haven't had time to truly connect and get to know each other. So to me, this is really exciting.
Yes, I feel like we were meant to connect and stay, become friends because you're right. Like our paths have crossed and they keep leading us back to each other. It's like, all right, universe, I get it. Like I'm supposed to hang out with Amy.
Thank you, universe.
So before we get into your career, which your whole portfolio, your whole resume is fantastic. Tell us when you first fell in love with sports.
As a kid, my dad was a Yankees fan because his dad took him to his first Yankees game. By the way, I don't even like the Yankees, but we went to a Yankees game and his love for baseball, I could see his passion. He played as a kid. He wanted to play in college, did not get to play in college. Other plans like having a child like myself got in the way. But his love for baseball and sports has always been there. And it was our way to bond. And just recently, he just turned 70 and I was able to purchase tickets to the Cubs game and got him front row. And he started crying and I had his name up on the board. And it's exactly what a daughter needs to do for a father who loves sports. And it was the best day and it was the best birthday. And he kept saying, we were at dinner. He's like, this is one of the best days of my life. And I was like, if I can do that through sport for my dad, I want to do that for other people. And so the unique opportunity of bonding with your father, which is very different for fathers and daughters, that to me, and sports gets to do that. And so I've always had an interest and a passion. I am not athletic. I do love to guard and defense. So put me on any basketball team, I'll annoy any shooter. But I will say it's the experiences you can give the people that are passionate about sports that keeps me in it.
I love that story. It's amazing how sports connects generations. And it's amazing as something as simple for you and I, we're like, oh yeah, put the name on the board. I still have people from my Fenway days, right? We're going back 20 years that still talk about the time they came to a game. And they didn't talk about free tickets a game. And they talked about how they got a picture of their name up on the board and how they still have it.
The fact that the woman gave my dad it's my birthday sticker that she gives out to kids. It was so special. It made his day even better. And then, you're walking through, he's going to the bathroom. People are wishing him happy birthday because he's got this big sticker. So
Yes.
those little things that we get to create for others just make such an impact.
Yes, I love those things. And you're talking about the sticker, and this was at Wrigley, correct?
Yes.
Yes. So I remember when we first had those conversations about having those when I first came in. It's crazy how much work it was on the behind the scenes to have something as simple as a sticker. But as I hear you tell this story, it was worth the effort in the background. You know what I mean? The behind the scenes that people don't hear about, like what it means to create a sticker, an anniversary sticker. It's my first time certificate, right? Like all those things, but it's hard work to create it behind the scenes, but it makes such an impact.
Mm-hmm. Those little things. And that's what I tell my team. And they probably roll their eyes a little too much at me, but that's what I tell my team. We are actually, one of my coworkers uses this as her thing. She is Santa's elf. She does not deliver the tickets. She does not take the clients to the event. She does not select and give the person the opportunity to sit courtside, but she's the group of elves that creates the experience, and the RM is like Santa. And
Mm.
so being that group of elves sometimes to create those experiences but not deliver, but then to see the impact is huge.
Yeah. Why don't you tell everybody what you do now and who you do it for?
I am the director of North American sponsorships for BMO Financial Group. So we're a North American company and financial institution, if you will. And my job is to oversee our sponsorship contracts in North America and all our relationships. To be honest, what that really means is
Mm-hmm.
I'm an air traffic controller. Like I am basically watching my team fly the airplanes. So the Bucks, the Bulls, CFM, TFC, Vancouver Whitecaps, those are my pilots. Those are the people leading the properties day to day, having the weekly status calls, making sure we're communicating to our lines of business on what assets they can use and how they can invite clients and engage, what community and social impact we're doing with each of our properties. So for me, I don't get on the day-to-day sponsorship calls, which is obviously where I started and what I would miss. So sometimes I sneak in, I get in their cockpit and say, hey, I'm going to join the call. And they're like, but at the same time, I really get to make sure that the vision of the bank is coming to life. And a lot of that is about how we're impacting our customers and how we're influencing the communities that we're living in and contributing back to those communities, as well as giving fans an experience that BMO can only provide with the Bulls or the Bucks or CFM or TFC.
How, as the air traffic controller, how do you make sure, and how I keep this metaphor up, but how do you make sure that your team, everyone who's flying all those planes, there we go, how do you make sure that they're doing okay? Honestly, like how do you manage? I mean, I don't know how many people you lead, but I gotta imagine it's a big team. You, all of North America, you said, correct?
Right. I think we're a small team, but it's
Yeah.
11 people, 11 humans that manage everything from Summerfest to Stampede to all our sports properties.
Mm.
So I would say we're a lean team, but we don't have an activation agency that physically does all of it. We are that activation
Oh,
agency.
wow.
We have brand ambassadors. I'm not going to say that we don't use activation agencies, but we do not have like a full-time agency that activates. So anybody listening, do not call me. But I will say human management is my passion. I have 11 people that work for me. And yeah, it's a challenge. And I try to empower them with like, come to me with a recommendation. Never come to me with, what would you do? Because I always reply back, what would you do? I can make your decision, but you own and run this property. You fly this plane. What would you do? Now, if I reply and say, I would shift this a little bit or change this, that is only because I have a little bit more knowledge, maybe from my boss or boss's boss. So it's not about them not knowing. It's about them maybe not knowing a larger conversation that we've had within the bank. I honor every property lead that works for me, every person that runs our properties or does our research and everything. And that is truly important. But when I look at human management, it's about treating everybody as an individual. And then, I joke, but if you've ever heard of the love languages,
Mm-hmm.
5 love languages, I absolutely love it. But they have a work version. So there's no physical touch, which is good because that's not good at workplace. But really understanding what each human needs to thrive. Some people need those words of affirmation. And more people need quality time. So, what does that look like? So, one of my colleagues, one of the people that works for me, she does enjoy words of affirmation. So, if there's an opportunity for my boss to call her out, I'll make sure my boss knows that and can recognize her at the right time. And it has to be authentic because, people can see through that. Quality time, very important for a couple people I work with. We now do walking statuses. So, if we're in the office or if we're not, we walk around the bank or we go for a longer walk and they take notes on their cell phone. And we do a walking status because what they need more, they don't need to sit with me. They want to walk. They want to have that quality time. We can talk about properties, what's going on, things we need to change, some ideas, and it's so much more productive. So I would recommend for any manager and leader, get to know your humans and get to know what's most important to them when it comes to recognition. And yes, days off are great and, gift cards to Starbucks. But hypothetically, what if they don't like Starbucks? I have some of my team who doesn't drink coffee, but I know he likes Chipotle. So I have to make sure when I do give a $10 gift card to a colleague for doing something well, that they also like it. And I have to get to know them a little better.
What would you say to the people who are listening and saying, but that takes so much time and I'm a new manager. I don't have time to do that in my new role.
The more time you put in up front, the better and more productive your humans are going to be, because it's so important that if you travel with them and you share the vision of the company vision of the company, vision of your department, and the vision of, my ultimate goal is to be the best sponsorship team in North America. I think we're there. I would put this team up against anybody else. But if somebody has an opportunity and wants to go and grow, I am ready to hire that next person to continue the level of sponsorship activation and needs we have. So I want to continue to run and lead and have people around me that want to grow. So it does take time. You can do some things electronically. You can say, hey, everybody, we're going to fill out a survey. Where do you like to drink coffee? What's your favorite thing to do on the weekends? What's your favorite concert? So you can do some things without actually sitting with your humans and say, hey, what is your favorite type of music? Or what do you like? You can do electronic things. So on their birthdays, you can flip them a Starbucks gift card or a Dunkin' Donuts or whatever, Timmy's, whatever they enjoy. But it's important that it is authentic. So yeah, you do have to put the effort in. And let me tell you, some days that's all I do is human management. And then I have to figure out when to do my day job.
Yeah. So you have to figure out that balance, or a better word I think that people are using is harmony, right? Like, so one day you may be all in and you're not balancing, you're not looking at your emails, right? You're not responding to probably your leaders, right? You're just worried about, okay, how do I get this ship and steer it correctly?
Right.
I think another issue is, right, we're moving, not an issue, but a challenge that a lot of us face is, especially some of my coaching clients, they're moving so fast, trying to manage a team on an individual basis. It's never one size fits all. That's always been my recommendation. So now it's like, okay, it's time to hire, and people want to hire quickly. And they forget about thinking about, how do I make sure I'm hiring and looking at a diverse applicant pool? How do I make sure I'm finding the top talent? What would be your advice? Especially, you've been in sports for how long now?
I was trying to figure that out the other day. So I think I'm at 20, 21 years. I think so. I told somebody 35 and someone looked at me like, that's wrong. And so I think it's 21.
I'm right there with you. I'm right behind you. I'm at 20.
So that's the challenge, is finding the diverse community and making sure that you challenge your team. Do we know anybody? And, you go that because obviously everybody has a different, you hope if you've hired a diverse team that everybody has a different network. I've been a part of women in sports and events since the creation of the Chicago chapter. What are we at? 16 years ago. And I helped start that. But that was our goal, was a diverse group of women. Yes, a group of women who can share knowledge and insights and help each other grow, but a diverse group of women. And our most recent president really leaned in on that word diversity and challenged us to be bigger and better and create bigger and better networks. But what that means is you can't always pick up the phone and call Joe from your alma mater and say, who do we know? You have to go outside of your safety network and really find people. So I challenge people, and we do this. We just finished hiring a contractor in another country and well, in Canada. So I guess it's close. But the challenge was the network was so small. And I said, nope, we got to go to different universities. We really got to look for the right person. So we didn't settle until we found what we wanted. But you have to be patient. And that's hard because your team's looking, you're like, I'm picking up this slack. We got to find somebody. And sometimes we rush and don't find the right person. Also, I have a pipeline and my team hates when I say this, but I know 3 people who could fill each of my team members' job tomorrow. Do I want to? Not at all. No, not at all, because they're all very successful, smart. But when they're ready, I can sit back and think, okay, this is the type of person I'm looking for. Now, remember, I didn't say this person fits the job description because a lot of times I can teach anyone sponsorships. I really think I can. But I need someone who is collaborative, especially in this environment where it's a lot of screen. How can this person relate to people in person and on screen? So it's very important to me to find that right person who's going to connect with all 11 teammates, which is not easy.
Yeah. I love that thought that you can teach people sponsorship, but you might not be able to teach them how to connect on screen.
Mm-hmm. Integrity, empathy, what we're looking for in a teammate is more about personality and cultural fit, as everybody says. Oh, it's a cultural fit. That's truly what I'm looking for. I can look at they're detailed, they're organized. That's great. That should be table stakes. Mm-hmm. But are they a good cultural fit?
You're telling me if you're hiring for your team, I don't know that you are, but if you are and people see the job description and see all the sponsorship stuff and think, I could do that, but I don't have a ton of experience in that area, they should still go for it.
Yep, 100%. Because I will look at personality and cultural fit before okay, wow, they've really done some different things. I have someone on my team who graduated as an engineer and was an engineer at a beverage company for several years. I had somebody who was working in politics and at a university for several years. I had somebody in our call center, which I think is one of the hardest jobs at BMO, because no one calls the call center to say how great you are.
Nope.
They're calling you because you have a problem. So to me, it is absolutely amazing to get that group of experience because it helps us lean in to be more thoughtful in our activations and what we're doing. It's work.
Yeah. Oh, I can only imagine. Yes, you're right. It is work. I imagine. I've never worked in sponsorship, but I imagine you're on all the time. Right. When you're at work, there's no hiding, if you will. Right. Like, at least for me in fan experience, when the team wasn't home, like my clients per se weren't there. So I could hide that day. And I feel like in sponsorship, you don't necessarily have that luxury. Is that fair to say?
It's fair. And we're also, a lot of what I do day to day is really internally selling the value of sponsorship. So how are you leveraging our properties with all the lines of business, making sure they understand the value of the sponsorship and how it's coming to life and how we can support their business. Mm-hmm. So my sales experience from selling college athletics for so long has helped me sell internally.
Okay, so I've read the job description and I'm thinking I don't have the experience when I'm an interview. I'm going to go for it anyway, and I get an interview. Tell us some, I don't know, you've been in the game longer than me. Tell us some tips on interviewing, the best interviewers that you've come across.
To me, short, concise answers, but thoughtful. And what I mean by that is, yeah, everyone says they're organized or whatever, but give me a story, give me an experience. So if someone says, what's your weakness? Which I hate that question, but what's your biggest weakness? Someone should be able to say, instead of, I work too much or this, it should be something like, and this would be mine, I am limited on empathy. And I know this about myself. So I have people on my team who their strength finders, number one is empathy. I go to them when I need to really think about how I'm going to communicate to this individual, or I send my colleague to them to lead them with empathy and then come back to me. So I know my challenge and now I've given it a solution. And I would tighten that up in an interview situation to give someone a story and how I fix things. So I would recommend, I don't think you should tell stories your whole interview, but I would recommend a couple key stories that people can remember. Because if they say, oh, are you good with technology? And you can say, actually, I created the ticket management system for BMO and I taught everyone from, the 75 executive assistants who are, from 60 years old all the way down to 21 years old, how to use this system. And here's how successful it's been. So that story, when you're around the table and everyone's saying, okay, what do we think of this person? They'll be like, you know what I liked? We're going to have her working on tech. And she taught those people how to do this. And so that story sits better than, well, she's organized. She's, she knows how to push paper around and she can talk to people. Great, but give me an example. So I would recommend having, when it's appropriate, having stories that you can come to, but they have to be authentic, clear, and concise to you as a person.
Yes, that's one of my favorite techniques that I love to teach my clients is how to frame your story. Mm-hmm. And having those 3 or 4 that you can rotate through and pull when you need to pull. And you start to say them so much that you don't even realize it. Like I was on a networking call today and someone asked me a question and I just was like, it just came out and it was like, gosh, I like literally could say this in my sleep. Like I just say it so often, but she was, she said to me, she goes, wow, the story, I keep saying the same one over and over again, but it told my experience in a very 2-minute window, right? Mm-hmm. Like I didn't talk for 30 minutes about my entire experience, which I could, it's been 20 years, but I gave her like a 2-minute story and she was like, done. She was like, wow, that's incredible. And I was like, oh, story still works. It's still working.
It's like the air traffic controller that, someone will be like, oh, she's the air traffic controller of the team. Or, I have someone on my team who I would say is the Swiss Army knife of the team. And that's because one minute he could be working with an executive on an event that we're doing with the Bulls. And the next minute he could be dressed as the lion, which is our mascot. So it can go from, high level engagement with leadership to walking around, hugging a kid in a mascot costume. So at any moment he can pick up one of his tools and be able to help support the sponsorship team and bring it to life from, A to Z. So to me, having that can also be a story, is having that object or job that maybe most people understand and give it a little bit of life, because explaining to what my parents do, it's a little harder. And they're like, but you go to games and then you run around and make sure other people are happy. I don't understand. I was like, don't worry about it. But, as people in the industry, they would definitely start to understand. But an air traffic controller, what happens. The planes are in the air and that lady's got to help direct them to where they need to go.
Some of the toughest conversations we have are the ones that we have with ourselves. We can convince ourselves to believe stories that we don't even know are true. What's crazy is we allow that story to take a toll on our confidence. Have you been there before? I know that I have. We get in our heads. We beat ourselves up. Here's some tough love. Nobody's got time for that. We are high achieving women who have big career goals. We don't have time to get in our own way. And I am here to support you with my new one-on-one coaching program, Step Into Your Power and Own Your Career. My clients have told me that when we work together, I've helped them get out of their own way, regain their confidence, learn how to manage their emotion and mindset. They've told me that they've been able to get their voice back and use it with confidence. The most important thing, they've told me that we've identified the obstacle that was getting in their way. If you want to learn more about this program, scroll down in the show notes, click on the link that says Step Into Your Power and Own Your Career. You can set up time to chat with me and we can figure out if this is the right program for what you need. All right, let's get back to the episode. Speaking of stories, talk to us. So you've been in sports for 21 years. Mm-hmm. You're an executive now. Talk about how you've advocated for yourself along the way.
It has not been easy. And I will tell you, probably my first couple jobs, I did not advocate for myself because I didn't know my value and I didn't know who to ask about the value. And that's why I believe in organizations like WISE, Women in Sports and Events, as well as just anywhere you can find mentors or people to connect with. And I have so many thoughts on mentors, but I'll say this. My lesson was I accidentally received a document that had salaries on it. And I was on there with 7 of my peers. And I was the lowest paid. I had been there the longest, and I was the only female. Don't worry, that was adjusted as soon as my boss and the finance person found out that it was accidentally sent to me. And I made sure they knew and were aware, like, hey, This was sent to me. I'd like to talk about this tomorrow. I'll schedule a time. And then I sat back and I talked to some friends and I talked to my mentor and I said, wow, I need to be better at my own research and my own conversations. Again, salary discussions are hard. I can negotiate the heck out of a BMO deal because what am I doing? I'm fighting for this company to get the best value of a sponsorship, and I will make sure it is the best value. But when it comes to myself, it's harder. When it comes to anybody else, I'll go in the room with them and fight for their title, extra benefits, whatever they need. So I needed to take that passion and put it to myself. And with that learning experience, I continue. But I would say it's always good to do a checkup on, and now there's so many different. Now at that time, we barely had cell phones, but I would say now there's so much research online of what your title is valued in what market, finding people who you can talk to about that range. Some people are comfortable talking about salary, some aren't, and that's okay. But you can find that group to do gauges and get generals. So when you do go into a conversation about salaries, it's not about salary, truly. It's about here's the value I'm bringing to the company. Here's what I'm doing for the company. Here's how I'm going to continue to do it. And the market value of all this is X. And it's not about I just finished grad school because I had that from somebody and slid me over their diploma. And I was like, but you haven't done anything with it. You haven't even showed me you can do anything with it. Yeah. So for me, that humbling experience has made sure that I can help people find the information, whether I'm not big on sharing my information, but let's go here. Let's look up what the range is. Let's make sure if you're in this title, but maybe you're doing something, you're in a manager title, but you're doing senior manager work. How does that work? So for me, it's getting the data and research and then thinking about the story that you're going to bring forward. And I learned a lot in that experience. So I always kind of take that with me, that girl that didn't know. And that's okay. I was young, but then I found the right people to kind of help me get there and understand and make sure I was communicating and advocating for myself.
Okay, Amy, we cannot skip over this whole spreadsheet that was sent to you. That's it. Like, woo, that had to be emotional, no?
It was disappointing, it was, and again, they're advocating because I didn't ask for it. I didn't negotiate. It was like, why are they going to say you probably should get a little more money?
So you owned your piece in that. Mm-hmm. You saw that you were the lowest and it was emotional, but you also owned your part in the fact that you weren't asking for it. Mm-hmm. And you immediately changed that. You're like, okay, this isn't working. And you sent an email and says, I'd like to talk about this tomorrow. Like you wanted to talk about it immediately. How, when you went into that conversation, and I know that we're just getting to know each other here, but how did you take the emotion out of it? Or did you just leave it in?
Took the emotion out. Definitely compartmentalized it. But I did let myself that night just be angry at myself and you got to go through the emotion, whatever emotion it is. I don't believe in like pent up. Maybe it was enough child therapy that I learned from it, but you don't pent it up. So it was very important to me to feel it and be angry. But then I gave myself a time frame and said, okay, what's the solution? Because you need to go into that meeting prepared, thoughtful, and organized to say, hey, this is what this role is. This is what this role is demanding of me. This is the revenue that I'm bringing in. And this is what I'm providing above and beyond. I don't know how you're measuring these peers, but here's where the range is that I've seen on the spreadsheet, and I'm nowhere near it. So we need to get up here. And they worked with me and they were, luckily I was the only woman, or unfortunately I was the only woman, but that did help my cause even more. So it was an excellent experience, but you do have to have the feels. You have to go through and be disappointed and angry. But then there's a time, and I didn't have much time. They were flying in. There was a time I had to just say, okay, what do I want? And that's when I did some emergency calls to some trusted people. I was like, I'm lost, help direct me. And when you have that group that can help direct you, it feels good. And it was both men and women. I had 4 people that I called and said, I messed this up. I didn't negotiate in my first round, and shame on me, but now I need some insights.
Were you disappointed? I like how, maybe like isn't the right word, but there's a respect there for you owning your part and saying, I'm disappointed in myself for not doing this. Were you angry with the company? A lot of times I hear, people get very, my clients are, I'm furious. Like I'm not being paid enough, or I'm furious, and like they're mad at the company, but they've never themselves asked for what they've wanted. So were you also mad at the company at the time?
A little bit, but that was short-lived because they didn't know. Well, they were like, why are we going to pay her more when she doesn't think she's worth more? And then what factual evidence did I give them to say, oh, I'm at par of all these people? And so you do need evidence. If you're selling it in, if I'm selling somebody for a raise and we're in a multi-billion, if not trillion-dollar company at BMO, I need factual evidence. You can't just say, I'm doing my job. You have to actually show above and beyond. And that's how I've looked at the experience of what I've gone through is, yes, do your job. Great. That's the check box of, yes, we're paying you to do your job, but what's that above and beyond engagement? It's not easy. And it's hard.
No.
It's hard to deliver that message to humans that work for you. It's hard. And especially, COVID switched the working world upside down. And you and I, we've kind of talked, but that it is hard because now companies are worried about culture and environment and how they keep the culture going. But then how do they give people the room to breathe and not go in every day and not so it is really interesting. And that's what I'm leaning into now is how do you keep culture going and enthusiasm to work with each other?
I wonder, I think there's two sides. There's two school of thoughts here. There's you should advocate for yourself and ask for your value and your worth. Mm-hmm. And then there's some people who believe the company should see it and give me what I'm worth and not have to make me worry about advocating for myself every year or however often you do it. I see both sides. I'm just curious as to your thoughts on it.
It's better for you to package up the great things you're doing to your boss because I know managing 11 people and I know the great things and I use their names more than I use mine daily. But it's easier if you package up your successes and then I edit and add new things so that I can go advocate for you. Because I advocate for you daily, but it's kind of nice to have my cheat sheet. And if you create it and I make edits, it is truly better. Like, I hate that, as a leader, I'm like, it's nicer when you send it to me and then I can add some flowery language and it keeps going up so that people see your value. So yes, but I know people want the leader just to be like, here's what it is. Well, yeah, I live with you daily, but you need to keep track of those things and, and your successes. So it is a balance. I also have an email folder that says reviews and greatness. And I make sure anytime anyone sends something about my team member or myself, it goes in those folders. Ooh. Make sure during your performance review, or someone brings something up, you can be like, the CEO mentioned my team on this date because we did great things during this. Like that's a good way to hold those cheat sheets. Or a client mentioned so-and-so by name and what they did at an event to take care of them. And those are key things. So when I am going back doing reviews, those folders are open and I'm like, oh yeah, let's put that in there. But you also have to be the advocate of yourself. I have someone that has a notes folder and she puts all the greatness into one folder. So when she's doing a recap, that she opens this secret notes folder and it's easy for her to be like, yep, I had 45 greatnesses.
I love that. I talk all the time about tracking your wins, big or small. Mm-hmm. And it can be as simple as creating a folder, call it greatness, and drag it in there. That's all you have to do because come review time, you don't remember.
No.
And I'm speaking from experience. I literally am like, what did I do this year? And you start to forget and then you start to, no, if you have that folder, you can just look back and be like, oh yeah, I did. And then it starts to jog your memory and then you start to remember other things that you did. But if you have it all in just one space, it makes it so much easier on you. And like you said, it's easier on the employee to package it up and give it to their manager and say, here's my greatness.
Right.
Go give me that promotion. You know what I deserve.
Exactly. Talk about me in roundtable. Find out what I need to do to be a bigger, better leader. And that's key.
Yes. I love that. The greatness folder. Nice, easy, and simple.
And if you're bummed, it's always good to read it.
You know what? I agree. I love to save all my thank you letters or notes that I get from people now. And I'm just like, I have stuff up that I've had for 3 or 4 years since I started my own business. And just because it's nice to see. Mm-hmm. Just every now and then you're like, oh, you just need a little pick me up. And, you don't need to get it from artificial sources like Instagram.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Sometimes it's just nice to be able to say, oh, this is good.
Yes. All right. Last question before we get to rapid fire. Right now, a big thing is mental health. I don't know about you, but for the last 20 years, that's been a big thing for me. It just wasn't as talked about as much. Right. And so, like, I battled anxiety, didn't even know what it was for a long time. Like, my manager, when I worked for the Red Sox, took me to the hospital because I was convinced I was having a stroke. They're like, there is nothing wrong with you. You are in great health. And I'm like, what? And so after a couple of visits, it was anxiety. Like that's what was, causing me so much stress in my job. And I loved the work that I was doing, but I wasn't taking care of myself.
Yeah.
How do you make sure you and your team are like taking care of themselves?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. There's a couple things. So I'll reveal a little bit of my history and then we'll go on to, a couple things that I've been doing recently. The gift of being a child of divorced parents is when your mom looks at you and says, you know what, I'm going to send you to somebody to give you the tools to learn and ask questions. And oh my gosh. And back in the 70s, early 80s, that was not popular. It was to go to therapy. The gifts that therapist gave me and the tools to sit and say, you're never cured, but sit and say, oh, this is what's happening. Let me process, let me decide, and then let me move on and interact with the world. The biggest gift. And I'm sad because I wish every, little kid in the world could go and learn the skills to process challenges and learn your own behavior. So, thank you, Mom, for doing that. Fast forward, it has been really interesting. And several of my team, I had a couple open people who are like, Amy, I can share that I'm in therapy if you don't mind, so that people understand this is normal. And it's interesting, US and Canada, there's some nuances and differences in how people feel about therapy. And I had two people that were open about it. And so they shared during COVID, like, oh yeah, I go to therapy and it's on Amy's calendar just to remind her that not to bug me for this 1 hour. Cause I'm like, what's up? I need to talk to you when you have a minute. Yeah. Like, I'm in therapy. So I said, just put a block and just say busy and that's fine. But they all just put therapy, which is even better because then I know not to bother them. But we've made it part of the normal conversation. Also, I try when I have a team meeting, some meetings, if there's not a lot to talk about, end and say, listen, you have 45 minutes. Do not unblock your calendar. Go for a walk, get a coffee, walk your dog, pet your cat, go hug your kids. I do not care. Just try and not be in front of the computer. Go do something. So as a leader, realizing and not canceling, because if you cancel, they use it for time to do something else. So I try and have a little bit of the meeting, give them some content if we need to, and then say the next 45 minutes is yours. Also allowing the open dialogue with the team. Some people, don't like to really share, and no one needs to share. But if you want to share, great, you can. And it is all right to have those safe conversations with people beyond myself. So it's someone on the team. So we make therapy the norm. People know, and I've done it in my life. I always say, it's the biggest gift as a child my mom could ever have given me. And I didn't realize that until adulthood. And then making it normal that it's on people's calendars and that I said, oh no, you can't, don't bother Jenny. She's in therapy right now, but let's talk to her in an hour. Okay. And Jenny doesn't mind because she has communicated that to the team. And just giving people a little grace. And some people have kids, some people have parents, some people, we all have parents some way, but some people have different challenges and things that kind of come in and out of their life that it doesn't always have them focused on work. It's okay to ping the group and say, hey, I gotta run my child somewhere. If you need me, ping me on my cell phone or do this. So we create that chat in teams to allow people to be like, hey, I need to take a break. I'm going to go get a coffee. Let me know if you need anything. For us, it's that opportunity just to keep that conversation going.
Yeah, I love the openness, and I love that people put therapy right on the calendar and block that time. There is not a chance. I won't talk about which team it was with, but there's not a chance I was putting that up on my calendar. I would block the time.
Right.
I would say, I think I would switch it up. Like I would say doctor's appointment because people can't see what I blocked off. But like, right. If you put two and two together, like once a month, first was every 2 weeks. You know what I mean? Like I came in late on the same day and I just kind of said, I have a doctor's appointment, but I would never feel comfortable. So, right. it takes a really strong leader to get your team to open up and be able to share about that. Because I wasn't embarrassed. I just didn't think there'd be understanding.
Right. And that's the thing. And not everybody on the team communicates that way. And I'm okay with that. I do not need to lean in and everybody talking about therapy and how great everything is. Like, you do not need to do that. If you want to, it's out there. If you don't, it's fine. But you and I will have conversations on, what do you need to continue to grow as a human and someone on the sponsorship team?
I love that. Are you ready? We could talk honestly for days.
I know. I'm ready. Rapid fire.
Leading a team and mental health, but we'll move on because we've been on for 45 minutes. So we'll move on to rapid fire questions. It is super easy.
Okay.
12 questions, whatever first comes to mind.
All right.
What is your favorite sports moment?
Oh my God, there's so many. Like, I've been recently, the Bucks championship. I was able to be in the Bucks championship parade. The tar incident with George Brett, my dad and I, like there's so many sports moments, good and kind of wonky and crazy. I don't know. Recently it would be, and also the Chicago Sky championship. Like there's just so many neat moments. And I'll tell you this, just my job and my role, I've had the opportunity to see a lot of really awesome moments. Give me a good montage and I'll cry. So that was not a rapid fire answer. But like, I love, I love a hero story. Yes, I like the win, but sometimes I just like working through pain and strive and win. So it's so like, I don't know. The list is long.
I love a good underdog story too. All right. So you can't pick one, but can you tell us more about the Bucks parade and like how you were a part of that? And is that related to your role?
Yeah. So we are the official bank of the Bucks. And as part of that, we were able to sponsor playoffs and then the championship parade. And it was really neat. And, the night of the game, the CEO was there with our clients in the suite. And I walked in and I said, okay, they're talking about the parade. Like it's 2 minutes left in the game. And he said, I'm like, okay, I think you should invite these C-levels, our clients, to the parade. And he's like, what does that include? And went on. And he goes, they do not have time. I want to reward our employees. And I'm like, no, like we need to offer this to our clients. And he's like, Amy, we need to reward our employees. I'm like, that doesn't help me track revenue. Like I was seriously fighting with him and he goes, we're rewarding our clients. I'll talk to you about it, after this. So I left and I'm like, no, I think I can convince him. The next morning, that leadership team we got together and the Milwaukee leadership team got together and they said, Amy, we're outvoting you. We're going to reward our employees that work on this event, work on the team, that support the banking for the team, that support the contract. We want you and your team to come. And I'm like, I'm very big on like, no, we're not using these assets. And they were like, no. And it was probably one of the best things I was able to do to thank my team for all their work with the Bucks and they got to ride on the parade float. So it's pretty cool. Wow. Experience. So I'm indebted to our CEO for thinking about employees first. And that to me, obviously that's probably one of the reasons I'm still at BMO, but that to me was a special moment to be able to say to my team, like, you're invited. Do you want to be on a trolley going through Milwaukee celebrating their win? So it's pretty nice. Yeah.
Wow. That's fantastic. I love that story. All right. Tell us, where am I? Oh, we're only on question number 2.
I know. Sorry. Keep it quick. Rapid fire, medium fire.
It's my fault. Okay. What is something people always get wrong about you?
That I'm related to Harry Potter. I'm not.
I don't know where to go with that one. What is one food that you wouldn't want to give up?
Pizza.
Are you a morning or night person?
Morning, 4:30 a.m. My team does not enjoy that.
You guys can't see my face right now. Get out of town. You get up at 4:30?
5-ish. It depends. If I'm ready to go, I'm ready to go. I try to go to the gym in the morning to take care of myself and do some lunges. I've got the sand dune thing that I walk on. It's like you're walking in sand. So you're keeping your balance. So when I get older, I'm not going to fall. And if I fall, I can tuck and roll like I'm in sand. So it really is like, yes, to me, I'm up and I'm ready to kick the door down. Like I'm excited to go in the morning. I wake up and I bound out of my bed.
I'm going to need you to. I used to be a morning person and I still am, but I cannot get up to go work out anymore. I've lost it. So if you can send me some of that, that would be great.
Yeah, I send the vibes.
All right. Our favorite holiday.
It's a toss between Valentine's Day and Halloween, Thanksgiving.
Okay, so you just named three there, but I'll let that
I know. Well, I send cards to my godchildren and special people in my life for Valentine's Day and Halloween. Those are the important days because everybody else sends cards on the other days. And then I try and do Thanksgiving for close friends because I'm thankful that they're my friends. So I usually don't do Hanukkah or Christmas cards.
I love that. Are you a dog or a cat person?
Dog.
Okay, what product would you seriously stockpile if you found out they weren't going to sell it anymore?
I have this perfume from Anthropologie. It's like a roll-on perfume. They don't sell it anymore, but sometimes they're in their store. So when I'm buying Anthropologie, you'll see me digging in this roller ball perfume to find this gardenia thing that they don't sell. I feel like my grandma. And then there's a MAC matte lipstick that they stopped doing, and I can't get it anywhere, not even online or eBay. So,
I mean, if they would just give us the heads up,
I'd buy it out.
Yeah. Like they would just get rid of it. I'm sure they want to get rid of it quickly anyway, because they're just tell us. Like it would just make our lives so much easier.
Make it easier. 100%.
What is your favorite app?
Oh, the one I use the most is Instagram. My favorite app, I guess it would be Instagram or Marco Polo.
Marco Polo.
It's where you like video with your friends and you're like, hi.
Yes.
Yeah. So they don't live here. And I'm like, hi, look at the city. It's beautiful. We miss you, stuff like that.
Yes. A friend tried to get us into that when she was in her trip in Italy and none of us responded. So it did not work out well. I knew it sounded familiar. All right. Who is your biggest inspiration in life?
My grandma.
As a child, who or what did you want to become when you grew up?
President of the United States.
Stop.
I did. I made laws in my house. I passed laws. I passed rules. My mom overrode those laws and rules. So I honestly, for time in my childhood and probably maybe my adulthood until I actually took history. So maybe not that adulthood. I thought that the president's mom could overrule any law in the US. I did. Now I do not. I lived and worked in our nation's capital and I love DC. I get energy from our nation's capital, but I do not want to be the president of the United States, but I want to have an impact in a different way. So yeah, but I really thought the president's mom could veto any rule or law. Like move your bedtime 1 hour. It's like, nope, mom law.
Veto. That's how it works in the real world. That's hysterical. All right, last one. Finish the sentence. The future of women working in sports is
dominant. We're going to dominate.
Yes, I love it. Amy, this has been a fantastic conversation. Thank you so much for spending time with us. If people wanted to get in touch with you, how could they go about doing that?
LinkedIn. I reply to all LinkedIn. It may take me a day or two, but, find Amy C. Potter on LinkedIn, usually in Black, because, I like the color. That's my signature color. And you'll find my headshot looking over my shoulder doing something fancy. But I will reply and respond. So that's the best way, especially when I'm traveling at airports. That's where I make sure I go through and reply and connect with people.
Amy, thank you so much for the time. We appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for your energy. I'm so excited and look forward to continuing to listen to your podcast. It's absolutely amazing. I've enjoyed learning more about you and this whole experience.
Thank you. What did y'all think? I know you had some aha moments or perhaps heard a few techniques that you want to steal and implement with your team. I will tell you, when I led a team, I spent a lot of time making sure to manage the group as individuals, just like Amy talked about. I do not subscribe to the one size fits all. It may add more time to our day, but it leads to having a high achieving team. All right, my friends, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Make sure to stay connected. You can find me at Jahaan Blake on both LinkedIn and Instagram. Until next week, talk soon.